We are back doing what we do like we doing it for TV. This is unplanned. This is to a degree unprompted, but it is for sure a necessary conversation. Whether certain people are comfortable having it or not is a whole nother ball game. So predatory behavior is something that uh, many people are obviously aware of. Many people are aware of predatory behavior. Many people are aware of people that have been victims of predatory behavior, whether it is that of a woman that's been victimized, a child that's been victimized, and a male, a young boy, an adult male that's been victimized. They're predators that come in all shapes, sizes, hues, colors, and creeds. And a lot of times it is overlooked the amount of predators that exist amongst us because we like to, as a society, hyper focus and fixate on one specific group as being predators. It is advantageous for us as people, as humans, as parents, as living beings, to be aware of the vast amount of predators that exist amongst us and around us. If you observe the amount of reports, you'll be led to believe that there's only or mainly male predators, but a lot of research has shown um, that there's more female predators than we're aware of, in the sense that it's not as widely reported because there is a general bias against it. There is a social stigma on men that report being victims. Um, Men are victimized by men, and men can be victimized by women as well. So, in no way, shape, or form are we aiming to minimize anyone's lived experience. That'll never ever be the goal. That'll never ever be the modality of approach, because it's a disservice to all of us as people. So the goal becomes, at least for someone like me, to bring awareness to these situations. There was a study done, and this is from 2017, lifestyle independent company in the UK, that female sex offenders are more common than many people are led to believe. The US study actually was done, and it revealed that female sex offenders are more common than first thought, while cultural stereotypes lead us to consider sexual offenses by women as rare. A team of researchers at the UCLA School of Law have found this to be far from the truth. Led by a woman, Laura Stemple, the researchers analyzed data from four large scale federal agency surveys and found that these types of cases against both male and female victims are surprisingly common. Uh, Published in Aggression and Violent Behavior, the researchers stress that while they are in no way intending to minimize the impact of sexual violence perpetrated by men, that their results are vital when considering stereotypes between sexual victimization and gender. Looking at data from the Center for Disease Control survey, researchers found that in 2011, equal numbers of men and women reported being forced into non consensual sex. Now, for a lot of people, that would almost be unthinkable and unbelievable. But again, the studies have been done. There is data to back this up. Similarly, the 2010 survey showed comparable results, estimating that nearly 4.5 million men in the US had at some stage in their lives been forced to penetrate another person, and that in 79.2% of cases, the perpetrator forcing the sexual act was a woman. Stemple's team also considered data from the US Census Bureau, which revealed that in 2012, a study of a percentage of women and men who admitted to forcing sex found that 43.6% of the subset were women, compared to the 56.4% of men. Most recently, they pointed to a 2014 college study of 284 men and boys, which found that 43 had been sexually coerced into unwanted intercourse, with 95% of the perpetrators reported as being female. The researchers say that data gives an interesting insight into the stereotype of women being considered only as passive or harmless. Instead, it highlights the reality that while at a lesser rate, women can and do sexually offend. We call for feminist approaches expansively interpreted to challenge these stereotypes, making room to consider women who are abusive, power seeking, and sexually aggressive, while taking into account the troubled background many such women possess. Quote unquote, the researchers concluded. Quote, those victimized by women are doubly harmed when we fail to treat their abuse as worthy of concern, end quote. So again, I look at this, and there's a bunch of other articles that I've been reading and different studies that I've been delving into that I find to be compelling for the sake of the conversation. Because even in today's society, that last study was from 2014, but if we're looking at 2024, a decade later, you now have more women than ever who are proudly uh, speaking on drugging men, setting men up, taking advantage of men. So again, this is in no way, shape, or form minimizing the assault that men perpetrate in any way, shape, or form. So let's not ever confuse the point of this conversation, the point of bringing this up. It is so we can start to identify predatory behavior in general. And when we convince ourselves, and this goes for women and men, when we convince ourselves that only one subset of the humans, because we're human, just the males, carry the ability to be perpetrators in such acts, is when we lose sight of reality in and of itself. We close ourselves off, we box ourselves in, and in real time, we're opening ourselves up to the possibility of being victimized, whether you be male or female. So if we're looking at just the nature of predators, predators in general think about themselves and their wants. They rationalize the fact whether they like them or not. Predators accept the situation for what it is and move on undeterred. A predator knows the world is not fair, but navigates through it. And the psychology of a predator, the mindset of a predator, most predators are people with low self esteem and sociopathic tendencies who feel the need to control others to assure themselves of their own importance in the world. So, again, we're looking at nature, we're looking at psychological frameworks of individuals, male and female. It is a it's an odd time, as we look at this perpetuated, for lack of a better terms, quote unquote gender war, which is complete garbage. It's complete nonsense. I don't perpetuate it. I don't believe in it. I see it as a form of division that's being used by media corporations, government agencies, powers that be, so that we as individual, as the people, as the true ruling body, don't recognize our power in the unity, don't recognize our power, law of one, that we are all of the same energy and cloth to a degree. And we lean further and further into the idea of division. And this division is so deeply ingrained in us and has been reinforced specifically after and during the lockdowns, when something as simple as choosing autonomy and to exercise your right to make decisions over your own body, you were demonized for. You were led to believe that you were less than. You were led to believe during that time period that you were a threat to your own loved ones, that you didn't care about those people you said you cared about. You were going to kill your grandma because you made a choice, autonomy over self. Predators, now again, we're looking at acting powers that have predatory nature and behavior. These companies that have predatory nature and behavior. These organizations that have predatory nature and behavior. If we allow the conditioning to remain and we don't do our own research, we don't do our own due diligence to start to understand the baseline psychology of the forces that are at play, then we will forever, as a group, as a whole, continue to be victimized. Because now, in this moment in time, if we're being extremely honest with ourselves, we're seeing world, the world as a whole is being victimized. And of course, if you have a victimized individual or group, then that means there is someone doing the victimizing. There is a perpetrator. There is an offender, and these offenders are broad. There's many of them. We have offenders from our own government, and I know speaking on this, if I don't tread lightly, will get me deplatformed and demonetized. But if we're just being honest, we're seeing predatory behavior in real time from the powers that be. We're observing wars being carried out with our tax paying dollars. You work a regular job, you paying taxes. You know where your tax money is going to? Do some research. We're being marginalized as people, and we're being told we have less and less power and autonomy over ourselves. So again, if we're looking at predatory behavior, yes, I started out just talking on the micro, individualistic examples of people being victimized: predator, prey, man, woman. But now, if we observe ourselves as the collective, as the whole, are we not experiencing the effects of predatory behavior from these powers that be? Are we not being told in real time that we don't have the right to make choices and decisions, that we don't actually have a say in what goes on? Are we not being shown this? So again, I have to say that we as individuals have a collective power. The same way I, as an individual with a platform, I have a choice to make. I could consistently, constantly make content that I believe is just going to give me views and likes, and I could shuck and jive, and I could, you know, do what the fuck ever. But I prefer in these moments to use the platform to observe where we are in real time. Because again, we are being cornered. And in the same breath as we're being cornered, we're being given all of these dopamine rushes. We're being given all of these moments to lose ourselves in media, lose ourselves in whatever the news cycle of the moment is. Whether that's us getting caught up with scandals in Hollywood, whether that's us getting caught up in our own personal dramas, or sprinkle versus drizzle, or women choosing a bear over a man in the woods scenario. A lot of this is designed by design to be distractionary. And we won't accept how much of a imagine that it truly is until it's someone close to us that's victimized, or we personally feel the affect of being victimized, or we feel the affect of someone's predatory energy, nature, or behavior, and or witness it firsthand. Then in those moments we become vocal. Then in those moments we start looking around for who's going to stand for us now, who's going to stand with us now. And please, if anyone does want to join the conversation, uh, DM me and I will send you the link, because I do want to hear other perspectives on this. As long as you have a perspective to add, I'm not here to argue. I have no need for it. And 9 times out of 10, there's no room or need for debate, because what is there to debate in the fact that there's predatory behavior to be observed? If someone believes there isn't, then we just shouldn't be having a conversation with each other. It's very simple. But there is predatory behavior to be observed on the micro and the macro. As individuals, if we begin to allow ourselves to see where we might have been the quote unquote victim of someone's predatory nature and behavior, then we can extrapolate that and we can see on the macro scale where the predators are moving, how the predators are moving. And when we separate ourselves and observe, which is hard because we're emotionally charged by a lot of these events. If you're looking at what's going on overseas, it's hard not to be emotionally charged when you're seeing the death of women and children and fathers and grandfathers and mothers and grandmothers. It's almost impossible not to feel something. What you feel, I can never claim to know. It's the individual experience. But I, as an observer, it's disheartening because there's so much division that is to the point that we even play blind, deaf, and dumb to our own situations where we may have fallen victim to a predator. We get so caught up in the daily Joneses and the robotic, monotonous nature that we all have, to a degree, fallen into. And it's not right or wrong. It's just something to be observed, because cause, causality. How and why? How did we get here? And why, as individuals and as a group, are we allowing ourselves to remain here? Fear, of course, that's one of the preeminent things to observe, or the emotion to observe, that's being used against us. Our own fear, our own doubt, our own lack of understanding, our lack of connection to each other, to community, to the idea of. At a certain point, I know many of us, myself included, will ask questions like, why? Why is it happening? There's a million and one different theories and ideas of what's the purpose of all of this madness. And sometimes it's easier to remain in a state of blind, deaf, dumb to these situations, because as individuals, when we start searching for that why, well, we question, what can we do as individuals? Many times, if not all the time, there's not much, if anything, that we can do when it comes to these global issues that we're observing in real time, as all of mankind is suffering under the thumb and rule of oppressive powers and acting ruling bodies. But what we can do is work on ourselves as individuals and then become that mirror to each other, that mirror to the world around us. There's tapped and untapped potential. And many, if not all, predators, they can spot it in us. They can minimize us through their words, through their actions. They will find us in vulnerable moments. They will find us when we are in a moment of need, a moment of self doubt, and they will feed off of our light. Now, again, micro to macro. When you consistently see videos of people that look like you falling victim to violence, what do you think that does to you? When on a public scale, we're seeing all these acts of violence, what does it do? We think it has no effect. It has the greatest of effects on us. But in those moments, we don't see it anymore. We become numb. We're not only blind, deaf, and dumb, but now we're numb. So when we do, quote unquote, open our eyes to see, sometimes we'll repress whatever emotional response we were supposed to have because it's become so commonplace for these occurrences. It's wicked. Choices, right? I often speak to the fact that I don't want to hyper focus on the idea of right and wrong. Of course, as individuals, we have a moral compass, we have a scale that we'll use to weigh our own actions and the actions of those around us, and again, the ruling bodies of power. But on an individualistic scale, aren't we just observing personal choice? You know, Jordan Peterson talks about good, righteous men having a monster inside of them that is there, that they are aware of. Well, in that recognition of the monster inside of you as an individual, it becomes easier for you to spot the monsters around you, those that prey upon the weak, the feeble, the unwilling. And I do have a firm belief that unknowing, really, that those that have power are left with nothing but choice at all times. The choice to use that power to defend those that cannot defend themselves, protect those that cannot protect themselves, or to drink of that power until they are drunk. And then as that power intoxicates them, they do any and everything to amass more of it. So we're observing predatory behavior, micro and macro, male and female. I think it's always a little bit easier for us to spot the male predators. You know, when it comes to older men, the ones that solely want to go for the younger women. And when I say younger women, I'm really like young ladies that are just becoming young women who might have just left their teenage years. And as a father to daughters, I could never see any comfort in the idea of a man my age reaching down to approach and or be with someone so young. So we can observe easily in men predatory behavior, men that go after the unknowing women, the women that don't have, you know, certain experiences yet in life. But we have to, in that same breath, be aware that their counterparts, a male predator's counterpart, is a female predator. Imagine them as being pack animals, pack creatures, that just aren't moving in packs. Now, sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. Let's not get that mistaken either. There are men that move in packs that are all predators. There are women that move in packs that are all predators. The same way we have organizations and ruling powers, as I said earlier, that move in packs and they're all predators. They're preying on our good nature. They're preying on our kindness. They're preying on our light. They're feeding off of it. So self-awareness, primary awareness through recognition of what we need to do to enhance our connection to self, connection to spirit, and therefore enhancing the connections to the world around us, will lead us to secondary awareness. That secondary awareness, if we're so blessed through persistence and consistent study and training and allowing self to experience life, we start to build up that tertiary awareness of the world we are in. And that's when it settles in that truth that there are predators all around us at all times. So we need be aware. We need to be prepared. We need to be diligent and vigilant as men and women. Men, it is our job to stop turning a blind eye. It's that simple. In many situations, I can't say that I personally have. I've even been in some bullshit because I refuse to turn the blind eye. But there's too many stories of men that have been in the vicinity of, in the area of, in the company of, and they play blind, deaf, and dumb for whatever their personal reasons, fear, doubt. I just aim to be the reminder that you have choice. And if we are truly men and we see ourselves as men and we are aiming to rebuild and recreate balance and regain trust in our counterparts, the women, how do we gain that trust back if not through our action? How do we gain that rightful space and place as leaders of household and community if we don't weed out those that don't belong in our communities, those that don't belong in our presence, those that don't belong in the ones we care about presence? It's through action. Not everybody's not gonna be a fan of that and agree with that and oh nah, you can't do that, you risking and I've heard a lot of weird ass rebuttals to statements like that. Talking about how men lose their lives, and you're right. But we're all destined to lose our lives at some point. That is, life in and of itself. C'est la vie. But I'd rather live a life that I can be to some degree proud of and know that the man I lived as is a man that I aim to be, not that I was settling for the mold of based on fear, based on doubt, based on being told by societal standards and norms that are decrepit and breaking of how we should be and what we are. Social media will lead the new generation of men to believe that they have no place, that they are unwanted and unneeded. That is not true. Social media and the social norms that are destroying us will lead women to believe that they don't need men and they should just thought it out and hot girl summer and all this other wild shit. And again, choices to each their own. If that's what you really want to do, live life, experience life to the fullest. But if we're looking at the ebb and flow and we're looking at the trajectory, where are we headed? Truly, where are we headed? Whether you believe in the gospel, the Quran, the Torah, whether you're Buddhist, whether you follow Tao or Tao, There's no way we can look at the state of people as a whole and not believe that this is our quote unquote end of days. To the degree that the world that we thought we knew is being obliterated in real time. The veil is being lifted from all of us in real time, to the point that I would say with full confidence, the veil no longer exists. You just have those that still choose to remain blind, deaf, and dumb, even as they stand and walk into the fire. And it pains me because as a father, I question, did I fail? Did I fail by not seeing all of this beforehand and bringing these souls into the world? Did I fail? Did I fail by not taking the time to build to the point that I could build a bunker for my children? I could build a community for my people. And I remind myself, no, for the world that we live in is based on resonating frequencies, and the frequencies that are being emitted are coming from the thought in and of itself. So if the thought is that of failure, then I will live and exist as a failure. But if the thought is that of purpose, then I will live and exist in purpose. They said pride is a sin. How can pride be a sin if I have pride in my bloodline, if I have pride in my name, if I have pride in my accomplishments, the work I have done and shall do for those that I love, for those I've met and have yet to meet? How can I feel shame for pride if my pride allows me to share pain points openly and honestly so that those on the brink of their own personal and self-destruction see themselves in a different light through a different lens in real time and reassess their position on the board of the game of life? The predators that are around us, their nature is not always clear cut because there's so many at this stage that are parasitic, vampiric in nature, that they prey upon our minds, they prey upon our spirit. They're the closest ones to us, and they're the furthest away. From the tech giants that have created algorithms that if we don't do our damnedest to curate what's going in, the majority of what we absorb on these platforms is meant to create denigration, dissonance, fear, doubt, self-loathing. And then you have these small subset of people who are perpetuating the idea, almost aiming to balance out a scale that has been tipped so far that to some degree, I question whether we're even on the scale anymore. There is only the options, chosen and unchosen. And the fact that so many of us have been given from the beginning so few options to choose from, I can see why it becomes so easy to stay on the lowest of frequencies. I've resonated there. I've chosen not to exist in a state of self-love, self-worth, self-appreciation. I've chosen to be around those that reflected a lack of self-love, a lack of self-worth, and a lack of appreciation of the gift of life in and of itself. And many times, men and women alike will allow themselves to be in the company of predators that prey on us in multiple ways: our psyches, our spirit, our light, Some, unfortunately, are physical predators, but there's so many different types of predatory behavior that we must become aware of if we are to break the cycle, to free ourselves from the shackles and the chains of our mind. To the young boys and young men, this message might not reach you, but for the one or two that it does, know you have value. Know there is a place for you in this society, and know that you are guaranteed to experience pain and suffering, for that is life. But through that pain and suffering, you will discover a strength that you never imagined. And to the young ladies and young girls turning to young women, mothers, sisters, you are valued, you are appreciated, you are needed, and your power does not just lie in your sexual energies. Your minds are needed, your hearts are needed, your ability to nurture is needed. The predators have not won, but they've recognized that it's a fucking buffet. Social media has made it so easy to reach so many people so quickly. And these algorithms have made it so easy to disseminate bullshit so quickly to so many. And you got all these fucking fake gurus and weird ass fucking, everybody's a podcaster and everybody's a life coach and everybody's a this and a that. But who the fuck is actually coming with a true observation of this human experience, the pain that we are all experiencing to some degree, and then offering a bit of levity, offering multiple lenses for us to be able to choose to observe from? Because I can't tell you that my lens is the one you need observe from. How fucking dare I even believe that I would know which lens you need to observe from to truly see thyself and know thyself, find and love thyself. I can only share with you my own personal pain points, what I've had to do to recognize self, to see self to some degree beyond how others saw me, to exist in a way that made me feel whole and complete. Through that example, I have met so many that have nothing more than been reminded that you have another lens to observe from if you so choose. You have to decide what that lens looks like. I've been seeing a quote on a post that I have that's at like 10.1 or 10.2 million. And it said a lot of people said it's hard to see the red flags when you're looking at the world through rose tinted glasses. Yes and no, because rose tints is just that, a tint. You still see that red flag. It's just a little bit easier to ignore it. It's a little bit easier to choose not to see it, to tell yourself it's not really there. Choices. Choose to be great. Choose to be more than they've told you you have to be. You are. And hopefully, with time and effort, and more of us coming together without fear, without doubt, in safe spaces, trusted spaces, where we can build ourselves up as individuals as we observe each other building as individuals, then we'll be able to aid and assist where we can. Rise to the lost, to the souls that are doing the work, even without seeing their own victory at hand, seeing their own wins, but still doing the work. Know that you're appreciated. Know that you're loved. And know that there's always someone that sees you, even when you're isolated. Who can that be? Your higher self. Motherfucking midnight gospel. Rise to the lost. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. Tomorrow's conversation will be the 12 laws of the universe. I will be back. This is just the beginning. Much more content on the way. Many more observations. And if I'm so blessed and fortunate, I'll have some incredible individuals to share space and conversation with on these public platforms that I'll be able to share with you all. Counting the blessings as we learn life lessons. Take the time to build the loops that benefit you. Observe yourself. Observe the world around you. There are negative and positive feedback loops at all times, interconnected and overlapping. Know thyself. Trust thyself. Protect thyself. Rise to the lost. Doing the work so the work gets done. You know, the motherfucking vibes, tribe. Love your soul. See you on the other side. Peace.